Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today, the top 10 acquittals that shocked the world. The old saying goes that justice is blind. Experience tells us she's also as unpredictable as a drunken horse on roller skates. Over the course of legal history, there have been a number of seemingly open and shut cases that have ended up not with convictions, but with the accused swanning out of the court into the bright light of freedom, while the public are left to pick their collective jaws up from the floor. We're not saying that any of the following were miscarriages of justice. What we are saying is that the acquittals were the last verdict that anyone expected. Number 10. Lorena Bobbitt. Lorena Bobbitt is the woman who, in 1993, cut off her husband's mini Bobbit while he slept and hurled the poor little guy out of a car window at high speed. The story was both so shocking and ridiculous that it made the national press. Bobbit today indeed has his own entry on biography.com, something that actual people who have accomplished actual things don't actually get. So what actually happened to the woman who assaulted her husband with a knife and left him a bleeding ruin? Well, since you read the title of this video, you can probably guess. Bobbit got off absolutely scot-free. But okay, let's grab some context here. Bobbit claimed that her husband, John, had repeatedly sexually assaulted her, causing her to finally lash out in self-defense. While John was acquitted of assault in 1993, the claims were still enough for a jury to find Lorena not guilty by reason of insanity. After 45 days in psychiatric care, she was a totally free woman. Interestingly, her husband may have benefited from his nightmare ordeal. His penis was reattached, and his notoriety left him in such high demand that he actually became a porn star. Number 9. Lizzie Borden. The 19th century generally wasn't a great time to be a woman. You couldn't vote, you couldn't own property, and you were generally regarded by the menfolk as little more than a comely breeding machine. On the other hand, if you were of a sufficiently high class, there was no way anyone would ever believe you were guilty of murder. Even if you, say, hacked up your parents with an axe and then brazenly lied to the police about your actions on that same day. Yes, the case of Lizzie Borden is like playing a game of Clue in which there is only one suspect and she starts the game covered in blood and screaming her head off about how she just murdered her parents. Gizmodo actually gathered all the evidence against her in one handy link, and suffice to say, it is very, very significant. Lizzie burnt her dress after the murders, she was in the house at the time and claimed not to hear her parents being butchered. She even predicted her father's death a few days beforehand, for God's sake. But, well, this was the 1890s, so no one thought a demure Sunday school teacher could do such a heinous thing. A jury acquitted Lizzie in 90 minutes. Number 8. Eadweard Muybridge. Eadweard Muybridge was an early film pioneer who captured the first photographic proof that a horse lifts all of its legs off the ground in mid-run. You really have to trust us here that at the time this was actually a big deal. Oh, and also, by the way, as well as doing that, he also tracked a man down in the California wilderness before killing him in stone-cold blood. And so what's the reason he's famous for pictures of running horses today and not, say, shooting a dude through the head? Well, that's because he was let off, even though he said he did it and witnesses actually saw him do it. Muybridge's innocence comes down to the identity of his victim. Major Henry Larkins was a friend of Muybridge's wife, who may have also been her lover. Mrs. Muybridge had even sent a picture of the couple's son to Major with the caption, "Little Harry." When Muybridge was actually put on trial for the murder of Major, he basically said, "Yeah, I did it, but what would you do if your wife was seeing another man, And then the all-male jury totally set him free. Number 7. The Bundy Militia. In January of 2016, members of a militia linked to the Bundy family occupied federal land in Oregon as part of a land rights protest. This triggered a long standoff with law enforcement. It ended with the FBI shooting a guy and slapping the entire militia in irons. When the case came to trial, it seemed a foregone conclusion that the feds were absolutely going to take the Bundys to the cleaners. At least it did until October, when a jury found the Bundy Militia innocent of all charges. This was unexpected, to say the least. The Bundys had openly occupied federal land. They'd done it as a protest, after all, and they weren't exactly quiet about it. Many progressives were furious that the jury didn't convict, arguing that if the Bundys had been black or Native American instead of white, they would totally be in jail. Some of the jurors had a rather rational explanation. Rather than slap the militia with a trespassing charge, the FBI had gone with the much harder to prove charge of conspiracy. There wasn't enough evidence of the conspiracy, so the Bundys, they just walked free. Number 6. Casey Anthony. If you were above a certain age at the time of the Casey Anthony case, you definitely remember it. The investigation was not only huge news, it was one of the most emotionally charged cases to reach the courts. Anthony's 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee, was found dead in the woods near their home almost a month after going missing. Casey was unable to account for her actions during that time. A forensic test determined she'd had a decomposing corpse in her trunk at some point. Clearly, there was something seriously fishy going on. If you're thinking that fishy thing was Casey murdering her daughter, you're not alone. Pretty much everyone in America thought that. Most of them still think it, even after Casey was acquitted in 2011. The trouble was, no one could prove Casey had actually killed Kaylee. They knew she was lying, but no hard evidence meant that she walked free. Today, most people still see her as about as innocent as O.J. Simpson. In other words, not innocent at all. Number 5. Robert Blake. It sounds like a crime his own TV detective Beretta might have investigated. Actor Robert Blake is 6 months unhappily married to Bonnie Lee Backley, a known fraudster and con artist. After the couple are spotted having a miserable dinner together in a restaurant, Backley turns up dead a block away, shot to pieces in a car. The actor's alibi is flaky. He has the motive, but no hard evidence has yet surfaced linking him to the crime. He seems almost convinced his fame will let him get off. Job for Beretta, right? Well, not in this case. Despite the overwhelming circumstantial evidence against him, despite 2 stuntmen who testified that Blake had separately tried to hire them to kill his wife, Blake ended up walking free. Backley's murder is still officially unsolved. In an interesting twist, a civil case found Blake completely reliable for his wife's death, with orders to pay $30 million, later reduced to $15 million. Blake's career never recovered, but hey, maybe that's a small price to pay for avoiding life in jail. Number 4. George Zimmerman. Do you remember in 2012 when controversies over police slayings seemed like a new and exciting thing? Well, that was the year that George Zimmerman blew away unarmed black teenager Trayvon Martin. This led to nationwide protests. Zimmerman was eventually arrested and brought to trial. There was evidence, including a recording of Zimmerman seemingly indicating he was about to confront Martin, bolstering the prosecution's case. In the glare of the spotlight, it seemed a sure bet that Zimmerman was headed for jail. Or it would have had Zimmerman not shot Martin in Florida, a state with a stand-your-ground law that allows for killing in self-defense. For this reason, he was set free, and the country went nuts. Interestingly, Zimmerman has not shied away from controversy since that trial. He has tweeted images of Martin's dead body, been arrested twice for assaulting his partner, the charges were later dropped, and become notorious for selling memorabilia related to the shooting. He also managed to sell a painting of the US flag for over $100,000. Number 3. William Kennedy Smith. When a member of the Kennedy clan winds up in court on rape charges, you know the case is going to become the media sensation of the year. So it was in 1991 when 29-year-old Patricia Baumann claimed Kennedy Smith had assaulted her on a beach near his house in Palm Beach. The trial inevitably became a media circus. Members of the Kennedy clan piled into the courtroom and made long and impassioned speeches. TV cameras followed all of the proceedings. When it finally came time for the verdict, viewers seemed almost disappointed that it only took the jury 77 minutes. Many were also surprised that Kennedy Smith was acquitted, but only in the way you're kind of surprised when a celebrity manages to get away with anything breathtakingly illegal. The judge disallowed testimony from 3 women who claimed Kennedy Smith had assaulted them over the past few years. According to Vanity Fair, the Kennedy clan instituted a gigantic public relations drive, throwing money and expertise at improving Kennedy Smith's public image. After all of that, it'd probably be more surprising if William had actually gone down. Number 2. Ethan Couch. Oh look, it's another entry on our sublist of rich people who got away with stuff no one else could have gotten away with because they were rich. Admittedly, our title for this bit does need a little bit of work. In 2013, the then 16-year-old Couch got mad drunk, took some Valium, jumped in a car and crashed it into another vehicle. 4 people died in the wreck, 9 were injured and 1 was paralyzed for life. Couch showed no remorse and effectively acted like he couldn't give an expletive. Now comes the bit you'll remember though. It started off well with Couch being found guilty, but then he was given an incredibly lenient sentence that would mean no jail time at all. The judge ruled that he suffered from affluenza and was too rich to be held responsible for his actions. The results looked a whole lot like an acquittal, especially given all the dead people and the alcohol coursing through Couch's bloodstream. Luckily though, the story ends with some justice being done. Couch took a vacation in Mexico rather than reporting to his probation officer. The state of Texas took a dim view of his continued affluenza and chucked him in jail for 2 years. Shame it wasn't more, really. Number 1. O.J. Simpson. Alright, come on, you've been watching this video, you knew this was coming. For those of our viewers who missed the 1990s, or every single pop culture reference subsequently made to the 1990s, O.J. Simpson was a football player turned film star who absolutely 100% did not murder his wife and did not stab to death her friend Ron Goldman, and did not then get away with it purely because he was famous and able to afford high-class lawyers. He, just happened to be found criminally responsible in a later civil case. As totally innocent people often are, right? Simpson's trial was known as the trial of the century, and it certainly has a good argument for being the trial of the decade. Simpson's clear culpability, the famous image of him trying on the glove, the chants his defense lawyers used, such as "if it doesn't fit, you must acquit," it all played into a media circus America is still, to this day, fascinated with. The fact that Juice both walked free and then later wrote a book called If I Did It, which heavily implied he did, in fact, do it, all added to the trial's notoriety. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and do not forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, over there on the right, a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one. And as always, thank you for watching.